And when I did actually leave, when I did what I felt was right for me, it was a big step in my taking back my power. So taking back my power played quite a big part in my cancer journey. When I was diagnosed, I went downhill quite quickly, but when I was diagnosed, I flew straight out to work with my sister in South Africa, who is a journey therapist, Brandon Bay's Journey. And I was diagnosed medically, but I knew that I was in an emotional turmoil, that I needed to heal myself before having the tumor removed, which they wanted to do. They wanted to operate. And I felt that I needed to heal emotionally before that. So I worked with my sister for 6 months, talking about love. I lived with them in South Africa for 6 months, and she worked with me, which was an amazing experience. She is like a rock in my life. We're very close. And I came back to South Africa, to Findhorn, and started working with Chetso, which was, as I said, a great privilege, and did a lot more emotional healing. I did all the other things. I did everything. I mean, I juiced, I did it. You name it, I did it. I did whatever came to me. I followed my guidance all along. And sometimes guidance came to me in books, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in the voice, as you heard. When I was really ill, I found it very difficult to meditate. I couldn't actually focus long enough. And so sometimes people would say things to me in a particular way. I intended vibrant health. I did a very powerful weekend workshop intending vibrant health. And intention played a big part in my journey. But I continued to go downhill. And one day, 2 people said the same thing to me on the same day. One person said to me, "Have you ever thought of having a reading on this?" And I said, "Yes, I have, but I've never found the right person at the right time. Why do you suggest somebody?" And they said, "Well, so-and-so is very good, but I don't know whether he does it anymore." And I said, "Good heavens," sorry, "good heavens, I'm having lunch with him tomorrow." Got the message. But just in case I didn't get it, another friend said to me on the phone that night, said the identical thing. It was quite peculiar, even to the point of, "But I don't think he does it anymore." And I thought, all right, got the message. So I spoke to him the next day, met him for the first time, and he said, "Yes, of course I'll do a reading for you." And he said, "There's something growing in you." He said, "I see it like a root system, which is blocking your healing." And he said, "What is it?" I said, "Well, if I knew that, I wouldn't be here." He said, "It's something like a belief system. When we went through things," he said, "Why aren't you going medical?" As I thought of it. And I said, "Well, I felt that I needed to heal the cause." He said, "Yes, I can go with that." Now, this was in October, and he said, "But in July, you nearly went medical again. You nearly had the operation as you thought of it." And I said, "Yes, but in meditation. In fact, we'd been in the hall here, and Dorothy had led us into a meditation where we connected with something beautiful. And through connecting with something beautiful, I got very deep and really had a chat inside myself. And I was told, there's nothing wrong with having an operation. It's my reasons for doing it that was the problem. That I would be having an operation out of fear, and that is no reason to have anything. And I thought, right, I've clocked that one. So I didn't actually do anything then. And now in October, I was losing my energy. I was still coaching tennis, but I was having to have a chair on the side of the court so that in between times I could rest, and I would tell them what to do and then I would rest. So my energy was starting to go. And I decided, this is when I actually saw this man and had this reading. And I phoned the surgeon the next day, but he couldn't see me immediately. he was going on holiday. Suggested I see somebody else, and I said, no, I'd rather wait for you. At this stage, I thought I was still okay. And I had to go down to London to continue with this course that I was doing. And I went downhill so fast that within 3 weeks, I was very close to death. I collapsed at the airport in London to come back. My son down there who'd taken me to the airport really got a fright. They got me onto the plane with wheelchairs and things, and I got back. And I went and saw Chitsa, and he took one look at me and he said, what on earth has happened? What's gone wrong? And I said to him, I've given in. He said, what do you mean you've given in? You've given up? No, I said, I've given in. I've phoned and I'm going medical. Very telling remark, of course. And he looked at me and he said, no, he said, you've handed over your power. And I looked at him and I thought, you know, he's right. My thinking was that when I went medical was, right, now you fix me. Whereas when I was doing all the alternative complementary things, I felt as though I was co-creating. Now that took me a long time to claw my way back, to get my power back again. So from there onwards, I was very careful to know what decisions the medical world were making and why, and whether I agreed or not. There were times that I didn't agree and I stuck my neck out. It was a hard thing to do. It was another step in my power, self-power. And at that stage when I saw Chitsa, my body signs were that I was pretty close to death. I was on my way out. I was getting the most amazing dreams. And he gave me a tape to listen to. I think it was a Kubler-Ross, I'm not sure. Talking about how the body shut down, which was very interesting for me. But he helped me in that session to really face what I was frightened of, which was death. And I really faced what I perceived to be my most fearful thing. And I faced death with Chitsa. And that night, I remember lying in bed and imagining dying. I imagined taking my last breath. I imagined going down the tunnel and meeting a wise being, all the things that we've read about. And when I was sort of meeting this imaginary being, I suddenly thought, you know, this isn't so bad. I can do this. And I really lost my fear of death. I mean, what a gift, a huge gift. So the next day, I organized my will, and I spoke to my sons and said, you know, this is the funeral I want. They didn't want to hear. No, Ma, don't talk like that. And I said, no, I just want you to know, organize things. And then wrote a letter to all my friends saying, I'm incredibly peaceful. I'm going into hospital. I might not come out, but I just want you to know I'm fine. I've lost my fear and I'm at peace. I really was at peace. And I think that was a big turning point for me, what I call surrender. I really surrendered. I went into hospital and had x-rays, and something I hadn't considered earlier was that they came back and said, the tumor's too big to operate. I'm sorry, we can't operate. I hadn't considered that. And what happened then, though, was I said to him, I remember my lovely son from London, Paddy, holding my hand, sitting next to me in this little room with my dressing gown on. And I said to the surgeon, tell me, though, what chance do you think I've got? Because I didn't want to go through chemo and all these other things that I'd seen other people go through and then die. I didn't want my last days to be going through all that kind of trauma. And so he said to me, oh, I think about 50-50. And I remember Paddy turning to me and saying, that's great, Ma, that's great. He's the eternal optimist, Paddy. He's an incredible person. And he threw his arms around me in joy, you know. Anyway, what the surgeon said to me then, though, was that my passages, the tumor was at the top of my rectum, and I was blocking up. And those toxins were what was killing me, basically. And so they suggested an operation to have a colostomy bag fitted. Now, normally when people have a colostomy bag fitted, it seems to be, you know, doom and gloom, the most awful thing. But actually for me, it saved my life, and it was a miracle, because I unblocked, but I also got better from something. I remember, you know, I'd had a lot of stomach operations. I'd had cesareans when I had my children. And I knew how to recover from stomach op. And I recovered very quickly, and that was a great feeling, to be getting better from something. And I came out of hospital, was too ill at that stage to start chemo. I found that I learned so much about balance in this whole episode. All the things that I said I would never do, I had to do. And I had to eat humble pie about the whole medical profession. I mean, I had human angels as nurses, and what they do every day is quite remarkable. And my oncologist was a wonderful man. He really was. He felt into me. So I worked from there onwards with the medical team on the one hand, and with Chitsa and my healing friends on the other. And it was at this time, when I came out of hospital, that my wonderful son Alistair came and lived with me. He was in London at the time, and he managed to get out of his contract. He's an actor. He got out of a contract that he had just signed, and he came and lived with me for 1.5 years. And what the two of us shared was quite incredible. He was 23 at the time, and he was 5 when his dad died. So my older son was 12 when their father died. And we became this very close-knit team through that experience. And these two boys supported me in the most remarkable way. Talk about unconditional love. I never felt that they were trying to hold on to me. It was never this feeling of, please don't die, Mom. I always felt that I was free to make my choices. And Alistair and I had a huge amount of fun together. He was my nurse, my cleaner, my cook, the whole works. I also had the most incredible support here at Findhorn. To have cancer here was just a miracle, because I was part of a women's group. They supported me right through. My lovely friend Katerina, she had a rota where somebody brought me a meal every night. So when Alistair was battling a little bit to try and be my cook and my nurse and my everything else, he did have support. I had lived in a house with a wonderful friend, Caroline, who was incredibly generous with her support. And I had a lovely friend, Pauline, who walked next to me through my whole journey. She took me into hospital. She went on holiday with me. And something we did that was fantastic, we played rummy. And when my pain got too bad, actually, the way that I took my mind off it was to play rummy. And Alistair would take one look at me at 3 a.m. He'd hear me coming out of my room, and he would come out and take one look at my face, and he'd say, "Okay, Mark, come, let's go." We'd sit at the kitchen table, and we'd play rummy. And, you know, the crazy thing is that I usually won. You know?